Good morning. My name is Richard Schramm, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the North Universalist Chapel Society, the North Chapel in Woodstock, Vermont, on this Sunday, February 20th, 2022. This is the North Chapel, where we aspire to be a congregation that nurtures the growth and supports the needs of its members, sustains a strong spiritual life within a loving church community, and seeks to have a positive impact on the world around us. Let me begin with some announcements. First, the Spring Fling auction is beginning on March 1st, and we need many more items to auction off for this critically important fundraiser. Please go to the North Chapel website, find the auction among events and activities, and pick out a type of item you can contribute to the auction. For example, you can buy and contribute a gift certificate to a local store or a favorite online site. You can contribute an artistic item or maybe a week's vacation at your chalet in the Alps. Lots of possibilities. Please check it out. Second, while you're on the church website, check out the social justice discussion series. There will be a discussion of the issues raised in the movie Don't Look Up this coming Sunday at 4:30. The website provides details on the nature of the discussion, various things you might do to prepare. You can read about the movie if you don't have access to Netflix, and the link to join the Zoom gathering. Finally, a rich array of other events and activities can be found at the church website, northchapelvt.org. Today's reflection by Marta Ceroni is entitled On Truth and Love. Marta summarizes her talk with this quote from Ta-Nehisi Coates: "I would not have you descend into your own dream. I would have you be a conscious citizen of this terrible and beautiful world." This will be a reflection on truth-telling. Marta Ceroni is the co-director of the Academy for Systems Change, a nonprofit that supports organization and community leaders in their capacity to shape more equitable and sustainable futures through peer learning and a focus on awareness-based systems change. With a doctorate in forest ecology, over the years Marta has become interested in economies that prioritize communities and nature. Before her current position, Marta worked as a research professor for 10 years at the Gund Institute for Ecological Economics at the University of Vermont. She's also a writer, a dancer, and a community cultivator. Her ancestral home is in the Po River Valley in northern Italy. Her current home is on the New Hampshire side of the Connecticut River, USA. Here's a poem by Carl Sandburg. My name is Truth. My head knocks against the stars. My feet are on the hilltops. My fingertips are in the valleys and shores of universal life. Down in the sounding foam of primal things, I reach my hands and play with pebbles of destiny. I've been to hell and back many times. I know all about heaven, for I have talked with God. I dabble in the blood and guts of the terrible. I know the passionate seizure of beauty and the marvelous rebellion of men, at all signs reading, keep off. My name is Truth, and I am the most elusive captive in the universe. Who am I? We begin our service today with a hymn, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire.
Hello, my name is Laura Foley. I'm here in a melty, snowy field in South Pomfret, Vermont. I was reflecting on what Leon spoke of a couple of weeks ago about love being a witnessing. And I have this poem called Yes. I see in close-up how intent she is, measuring coffee spoons on our sea. Doesn't realize I am for once not sailing to some uncharted island, not lost in their news, but mine, navigating deep waters with my chosen shipmate. Her lips moving a little starboard of my port. Yes, a new settleness has landed within sight of the horizon. She doesn't know she's being seen. She's being seen.
Good friends gather round, there's something we would say. What brings us together here blesses us today. Love has made a circle that holds us all inside, where strangers are as family and loneliness can't hide. When we give ourselves to love, and love is what we're after, open up our hearts to the tears and laughter. When we give ourselves to love, give ourselves to love. Love is born in fire, it's planted like a seed. Love can't give us everything, but it gives us what we need. Love comes when we're ready, it won't come when we're afraid. It can be our greatest teacher, the best friend we have made. When we give ourselves to love, and love is what we're after, open up our hearts to the tears and laughter when we give ourselves to love, give ourselves to love. So come and gather round and hear what we would say. What brings us together here blesses us today. Love has made a circle that holds us all inside, where strangers are as family and loneliness can't hide. When we give ourselves to love, and love is what we're after, open up our hearts to the tears and laughter when we give ourselves to love, give ourselves to love, give ourselves to love.
Good morning. It is so special for me to be here with you at this time. So thank you. Today, the reflection is called On Truth and Love. And I will be reading from a screen nearby. So if you see my eyes going a little bit there, that's why. I would like to ask you this. Do you remember a time when you felt in your body that something truly mattered to you? One of the strongest experiences for me when I learned that something truly mattered to me was the experience of rage. At 8 years old, I was living with my parents and my brother in a neighborhood at the periphery of Milan in Italy. Our apartment was part of an old school building that was repurposed as affordable housing. You would get to it by entering an arch from the main street, crossing a courtyard of dirt with no garden, coming up a ramp of stairs, and walking on a long balcony, passing doorsteps and doorsteps. I loved being able to see each other's windows and doors and hearing music and loud voices from all around. Some were from North Africa, some from south of Italy. We had tall ceilings and tall windows as it's proper of classrooms. The windows were leaky, and this was more than an energy efficiency issue. There was an oil refinery nearby that spewed its disgusting fumes in the air, which we were all forced to breathe. I was enraged that this was even possible, meaning that someone could take away this very fundamental thing, clean air. And the stench was particularly strong and noticeable at night, when we were all asleep and therefore not able to escape it. It was the first time that I viscerally experienced an injustice. Rage, with its intense grip on my guts, was making it clear to me that a fundamental right was being violated. And part of that violation was sensorial and physical, and part of it was psychological. It presented a truth that I vehemently rejected, that there are communities and people whose well-being is less worthy of protection and who can be sacrificed in the name of someone else's well-being. Canadian author and journalist Naomi Klein talks about sacrifice zones to describe this. Day after day, night after night, the idea that there will be always someone else whose suffering is unavoidable seeps through the collective consciousness, where it becomes a daily practice of betrayal. Do I believe in sacrifice zones? No, I don't. So why is this not as enraging as it was then? In April 2016, I became a citizen of the US, well in time to vote in the November elections. While living in Italy didn't really feel like a choice, becoming a citizen of the US was an intentional choice, one that took me several years to make, actually. The night before my citizenship ceremony, I was feeling increasingly anxious. I had not had the time to pause and collect my thoughts on why I was doing this. I knew that I was going to encounter dissonance and discomfort in the ceremony. The next day, I arrived perfectly on time at the Bedford, New Hampshire Citizenship and Immigration Office. There was a queue to get in. I've never seen so many people of the world at one time. In front of me were women with long gowns and covered heads, their male relatives and partners in elegant suits in light green and silvery gray. All around were other families, children, and grandparents. It was one of those first smile days, and all wearing light clothes. And yet, I had chills, not of the temporary ones that come with profound, even if brief, experiences, but sustained, prolonged chills. In the ceremony room we were all sitting, an officer, a cheerful man, told us that there were 25 of us from 20 different countries. I had a woman from Uruguay to my right and a young woman from Iraq to my left. The Iraqi woman told me that she had never heard of most countries that were named, but she smiled when she heard that I was from Italy. She said that she wanted to go to Venice and Rome one day, and I got an extra dose of chills, thinking of the fate of education for girls in war zones. Then the more official part of the event began. Right hand on the heart, the officer invited us to sing the national anthem. A flock of children joined him on stage. Unlike their parents, they were born in the US and they knew it by heart. We adults had to look at the words on the screen as they appeared line after line, like in a karaoke. Like everyone else, I started to sing the song whose words I had never taken the care to read. I will never forget that confused mix of voices, singing alien words in our very different accents, not a crumb of conviction in our voice. And then I stopped. There was no way that I would pronounce with my hand on the heart words of war and violence. This was the moment that the chills had warned me about. They had accompanied me to the verge of that moral booby trap where I would be asked to negotiate my integrity in order to belong. What are those non-negotiable, fundamental truths that give us chills when we are brought to the verge of betraying them? The next day, I was walking with my little dog Frida in one of the most beloved places around here, Parker Meadows in Norwich at the St. Francis Church. I asked myself whether now, as a citizen, I felt that I belonged a little bit more to this American soil, so lush and so green. The answer was no. It came naturally, seemingly from nowhere, as it often happens in moments of clarity and peace. The truth was that I was actually walking on Abenaki land, and I recognized their nation as the legitimate body that would have jurisdiction on whether one could be here or not. So I continue to be a guest, a citizen of an unreconciled country. What does reconciliation feel like? In 2015, I was invited to speak at an event at the World's Fair in Milan. This is the type of event that is the same as the World's Fair that was held in Paris, and that was the reason why the Eiffel Tower was built. So this World's Fair in Milan was also kind of crazy. And I'm amused at the memories of colorful pavilions and gardens bursting with intense colors, murals and graffiti. But the most meaningful thing for me was where the grounds of the World's Fair were located. To my immense surprise, the hundreds of pavilions, the conference centers, the exhibits, the gardens were all built on the grounds of the same oil refinery whose disgusting fumes I had grown up with. The oil refinery had been closed, the chimney stacks were demolished, and the site was remediated. And now I was in one of the conference centers in front of a couple of hundred people, and I was talking about economies that prioritize nature and community, and I was sharing learnings and solutions from Vermont. I had changed my presentation to include the recent discovery, and when I got to sharing my story with the audience, the room exploded in an exhilarating cheer and clapping. It was cathartic. It was a feeling of closing a circle, of re-established harmony, of coming back to what was primordially true, coming back home. And then, more recently, I got intrigued by the metaphoric power of this story, and I wanted to learn more about how the remediation of the refinery grounds actually happened. I discovered myself eager to see imagery of the chimney stacks falling and crumbling, not that differently from wanting to see statues of oppressors fall. Speaking of metaphors, remediating an industrial site isn't the same as reconciling a country or a community or a relationship. But I was curious to see how far I could go with this parallel. So here's what I learned about remediation. Once it became clear that the oil refinery was not essential anymore, that it was antiquated and hazardous, it took surprisingly little time to get rid of it. There was alignment and collaboration among the different parties involved, the regional government, the oil industry, the community, the remediation companies. The process, in fact, became a model for other sites in Italy to be repurposed. The remediation was extremely messy due to the lots of different poisons that had seeped through the different layers of the soil, contaminating the surface of the water table, but luckily not the deeper waters. The cleanup required multiple different technologies. Some were highly innovative and some were millions of years old, such as the use of bacteria. 350,000 tons of soils were removed and inoculated with bacteria that could break down the poisons. The same bacteria were put to work on the soil that was left on site. There was a period of time when the cleanup was happening at the same time of the rebuild, and this required to make the site particularly safe, not to put at risk the workers. Part of this safety was a monitoring system to check periodically the quality of the soil, the quality of the water, and the quality of the air, so that the workers and the community would be protected. I was particularly intrigued by the fact that once the cleanup was advanced enough and safe enough, it could overlap with the rebuild. And this is what intrigues me now the most in the work that I do. Cultivating those transitional spaces of healing and reimagination. These are messy places and painful, and they are brightened by the glimpse of the new possibility. Places where seeds can germinate, but where you wouldn't plant tomatoes quite yet. So I would like to leave you today with an invitation to look for those transitional places in your life, to name them and recognize them. It's so easy not to see them. Look for those places that are messy, uncomfortable, painful, and brightened by the glimpse of possibility. Places where what truly matters can be held and respected. Places where true love can take root. Thank you for listening. And I would like to leave you with a quote from Ta-Nehisi Coates, a quote that has guided me subliminally through this reflection, and is an invitation to face reality with eyes wide open and to practice holding both beauty and pain. This is from Between the World and Me, which, as you might know, is in the form of a letter to the author's teenager son. I would not have you descend into your own dream. I would have you be a conscious citizen of this terrible and beautiful world. Thank you. My blessings to all of you. And I hope to be in community, in person, with you sometime soon.